And good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I wanted to follow up on the video I did yesterday, which was performing the IP address lookup of my MAC addresses through the ARP cache that I was querying. And I'd made the comment that I had so many different videos of the MAC address lookups that I should have added the vendor lookup to my program. So I did. It took 20 minutes this morning. I'm sorry, I got lazy yesterday. But I did add that functionality, and I wanted to go through that to show you what I have and effectively what this product is doing now. So in terms of the get ARP table, I've modified the program so that as I am pulling out the addresses, that now I'm receiving the IP address, the host name, the MAC, which we had, and then I have two additional fields today, the OUI, which is that converted MAC, the first six bits of that, and then the vendor, which is now the lookup, which if you recall, I had created a getmac lookup, which was able to go out and pull the address in for that one MAC address. So a while back we created that did the SQLite, and so I'm using that functionality now through my ARP lookup to go ahead and get that information prior to looking up IPControl. So just to show you kind of what I've done here, I modified just a few areas. And in the Node-Red, where I'm processing this information now, we've effectively gone in and I've modified the object that I was working with to include a new OUI field. And what I'm doing here first is that if it's an incomplete MAC address, that it's just going to set this to null. Again, I'm just creating the structure in this one particular case. But in the valid address, I want to go ahead and do the replacement of the colon or hyphens, depending on whose ARP you're using, Windows or Mac, this may come back, or Linux, this may come back in either way. So I want to go ahead and strip that off and then go ahead and get the first 6 bits and then pull that into the object and then push that into the object array. So now I've got this OUI here that I'm using, that as I now split this array of objects, I'm now going to create a new URL, and that URL through this JSON expression editor is going to call my Node-Red getmac API endpoint I created the other day, passing it the OUI. So creating the structure and the get parameter to pass the MAC equals OUI. And then also setting the message payload and moving it into an underscore payload where I'm going to use that as a kind of a temporary holding place for all of the different variables. And what will happen is in the getmac, we're going to go ahead and call that function, but it's setting it through the URL. So the URL is setting it basically to look similar to the name. We're then going to process the JSON and convert that to an object that can be processed further. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply several rules or changes to this payload in order to reconstruct the temporary message input that we're going to use later. And effectively what we're doing is we're now looking up this information and copying the vendor, which is in payload 0, because we're turning an array in the event that there's multiples. In the case of the MAC, there's a single, but in case of the vendor where we supported multiples, it outputs everything to an array. So if you're doing a MAC lookup, it would be array element 0, it should be only 1. And if you're doing this through any others vendor, it would be multiples. So you'd have any one of those. And then I'm going to set this input variable now to my payload underscore payload temporary variable. So moving everything into the input where I'm going to use it, creating my headers again, setting my URL, which is already set, emptying the payload because I have nothing I want to share at this point because I'm going to pull it in later, and then also deleting my underscore payload, which is my temporary variable now that it's moved into the input parameter. Right? So now that that is running, it then goes and performs the standard checks that we were doing before and puts everything into the payload accordingly. Now, in the if valid, if not found, and founds functions, this is where I'm going to now append the OUI and vendor from the input property and its OUI and vendor property explicitly. So pulling that data back in so that the output result in all 3 of these includes now those 2 additional fields or properties. And so that quick change and running through my PowerShell. I didn't have to do anything to PowerShell, and just simply running that command then pulls those values. And if you're looking at, again, the PowerShell, you can do the out grid view, which is a great little utility to help you kind of filter and sort on this. And what's nice about it is I could go in, if I wanted to look, say, for VM, I could pull up all my VMs instantly. Or I could do this with all my Dell, or other types of servers, cameras, things like that. So, PowerShell gives you some great ways to kind of manipulate the data and work with it in a real-time, capacity scripting type functions. So anyway, wanted to share that with you and kind of what I did. It's a very easy process, again, through Node-Red to do this. Took a little bit of debugging, but everything worked out well. And now I'm going to move on and kind of, again, build on top of this my other application components so that now I can start uploading arrays and pulling this data and start, joining all of these functions we've built together into these single applications. So I'm hoping at the end of this, we'll have a really nice set of utilities that will help us along the way. So anyway, quick video, and thanks for your time this morning. Hope this helps. And again, if you have any comments or things that you'd like to see out of this, let me know. Just leave me a comment. It's private until I look at it, so I'll take a look and then go from there. So anyway, have a great day, TGIF, and let's hope this weekend lasts a long time and we can enjoy it. Take care, everybody. I'll either talk to you a little later today or maybe till tomorrow morning. We'll see what inspiration hits me. Thanks.